Hey, I've been watching this documentary about Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, and along with the rest of you, I've been given a glimpse into behind the scenes. Um I've been a fan of Michael Jordan since he was at North Carolina. I've watched every game he ever played that I could ever watch. I taped every single game that I could tape. So I have a lot of these games on video. But what I don't have is the behind the scenes. And so it's interesting to see how some of those things played out. But uh, there's been this ongoing debate about, uh, the greatest of all time. And I do not think you can ever call any player in any sport the greatest of all time because all time has not happened. There's many more seasons to go, assuming sports ever begins to play again. Uh, but you cannot compare LeBron to Michael. You cannot compare Michael to Magic or Magic to Larry Bird. You cannot compare uh, the level of greatness that these players are. You can only use the facts, and the facts are only what you can observe. If if you want to say Magic is better than Bird, you have something to look at. If you want to say that Michael is better than Charles, you have something to look at. But you don't really have anything to compare Michael to MJ. You don't really have anything to compare Kobe to Michael. What you have is facts that are undisputed, and then you have theories. You have an idea. You have an opinion. You I can say after watching these players over the course of 50 years of my life, because I'm 57 and I've been watching basketball since I was at least seven. My memories are different from when I was seven and what they are now, but I saw Pistol Pete play. I saw Jerry West play. I saw, you know, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and, you know, I saw all of them play, but I never saw anybody that could dominate a game like Michael Jordan. Literally any game that he decided to, he could dominate it. And I didn't really ever see that from anybody else. Now, LeBron, bigger player than Michael, playing in a different set of rules than Michael did. Uh, but in his generation, in LeBron's league, he is the best player or has been the most consistent player of his generation. He's gotten his average 20 points. He's gotten his average 8 rebounds. He's gotten his average 6 assists. But what LeBron doesn't really do, or what he had never did or has done, is play defense the way Michael did. Uh, that's the thing that's lost on a lot of people is you cannot. Uh, I didn't see a game where Michael didn't play both offense and defense. You know, I mean, I saw times when maybe Michael didn't run back on defense, or but it wasn't very often. If Michael missed a shot on offense and somebody else got the rebound, Michael wanted the ball back, and he went after it, and he didn't care who had it. He wanted his ball back. That's the thing about Michael. Uh, he wanted the ball in his hand. Now that doesn't mean he had to always be the one to take the shot, because I saw Michael pass the ball plenty of times. He averaged, I guess, 6.5 assists a game. Somewhere 5.5 to 6. I mean, he wasn't just a ball hog, but he was the kind of player that four defenders would try to guard him every time he came in the paint, you know? And so do the math. There was always going to be somebody open, wide open, to take a shot somewhere else, you know? And they had to hit it. They had to make the shot. John Paxson, Steve Kerr, B.J. Armstrong, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Bill Cartwright, Will Perdue, you know, every one of those guys got wide open shots because of Michael. You know, Dennis Rodman, wide open under the basket. Michael's going to dish it to him. He's wide open. There's nobody contesting these other shots. Maybe getting a hand in the face or something, but Michael had four defenders on him all the time. All the time. If he went in the lane, the two guards would converge on him. The two forwards would, come from one direction or the other, and the center would do everything he could to block Michael from getting to the goal. It didn't happen, you know. I mean, most of the time when Michael missed a shot, it was because he was clobbered, you know, by the opposing team, clobbered, and not getting the calls on the fouls all the time. I mean, there's this notion that the referees protected Michael. Bullshit. I saw him getting his ass handed to him all the time. But Michael got stronger. He got more physical. When he was in the league as a rookie in his first couple of years, he wasn't that physical. But he was still Michael. But he was, you know, like a young Kobe, moving in and out of traffic. He didn't have the same, uh, conglomeration of defensive players, you know, in that first. But when they started hammering him, Michael got in the weight room and Michael put on some pounds, and Michael was able to keep his ability to move and avoid contact as much as possible when he was going to the basket. But the guy could change hands with the ball quicker than anybody and find a way to get the ball up off the glass somewhere, or he could get turned around, but he knew where the basket was and he just flipped the ball up. And I don't know, he did that several times as far as I know. Uh, but if you're gonna try and call a player the greatest of all time, then all time has to happen. It has to be done. So if they never played another NBA game ever, knowing what I know, because I had to compare what I know. I wasn't there for the Celtics to win their 11 championships or whatever it was, but I do know this: the level of competition then was completely different than the level of competition when Michael was in the league. And the way the referees called the game, the rules changed, the shot clock, the 3 point line. But back when Bill Russell was playing, it was a big man's game. You know, they had the guards, they had the koozies and the Havlicek slippers, and you know, but it was a big man's game. Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, uh, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, George Mikan. Those guys dominated the game when they were in it. But Russell could have had more points, but he had a bunch of white guys that all he had to do was just pass the ball to them, and they could make the shot. And he got his rebounds, he got his blocks. He dominated in the paint. Very few other teams could score against him because he had these arms that were longer than a redwood tree, and could just sit there and swat it away. But he wasn't playing against players like Michael Jordan every day. I mean, the level of competition Bill Russell won his championships against, not that impressive. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of teams in the league at the time. I thought it was more impressive that the New York Knicks won a championship with Walt Frazier and Willis Reed, Dave DeBusschere, you know. But I just know based on the way the league has been, there's been an evolution of the rules and the competition and, so forth. So, you know, was Bill Russell the greatest of his generation? Probably. But Wilt Chamberlain was a force. He just didn't have the same kind of team around him that Russell did, you know. But Chamberlain was selfish. He wasn't really a passer, you know. When he got the ball down in the paint, it was going in, you know. Kareem was more of a balanced player. Kareem passed, Kareem shot. Kareem was a team player. Kareem played for one of the greatest coaches of all time, John Wooden. So Kareem had a level of team concept in him that Wilt did not. Wilt played for the Jayhawks, and they had a great coach, but anybody could have been great with Wilt Chamberlain as their coach. And the same can be said for a lot of coaches, but Wooden was a different type of coach. Wooden was Dean Smith before Dean Smith. You know, you got other coaches that are good coaches that could have coached any of these players. Would all of these players win the same amount of championships? Who knows? But I don't think Phil Jackson wins without Michael Jordan. I don't think he gets the opportunity to go to the Lakers without Michael Jordan. And, if you want to give Krause credit for hiring Phil, that's fine. But what it boils down to is that Krause was not shooting the basketball. Okay? Krause was not sacrificing everything to win a game. And I don't give Reinsdorf any credit at all because Reinsdorf wasn't really a majority owner. He was the managing owner. He wasn't the owner. There were other owners involved in the Bulls. So, but Krause was the GM that made the picks, signed the contracts, traded players, moved pieces in and out. Yeah, they don't win shit without Michael. Period. And Michael wins without Scotty. Michael wins without Horace. Michael wins without any of them. Eventually, teams that Michael was on were going to win championships. Eventually. I'm certain of it. But I can't say that about all the coaches. I can't say that about all the other players. The closest one is LeBron. Maybe Kobe.